Emily Midgett here today, and I'm thrilled to be back again as a guest designer for W+9. Today, I'm going to show you how, even if you don't have a full collection of Copic markers, you can combine just a few colors with your colored pencils to create some dramatic shading and depth with your colored images. Let's get started. I made the huge mistake of selling off a large chunk of my Copic marker collection because I wanted to focus on watercolors and pencils. After rediscovering my love for Copic markers, I'm slowly working to build it back up again, but I've had to improvise somewhat when it comes to achieving the shading on paper that I see in my mind's eye. I know that the technique I use in this video is not a new technique, but this is my personal take on it. My main philosophy with this technique is to create a base layer with my somewhat limited collection of Copic markers, then use the much larger variety of shades in my Polychromos collection to augment that base layer. A bonus of using colored pencils with smaller, more detailed images, such as those in the W+9 hibiscus bouquet, is that colored pencils can be sharpened to a nice fine point, allowing you to really get into the nooks and crannies of your stamped image. I've stamped the beautiful hibiscus bouquet onto some white cardstock using Copic-friendly black ink. I then colored my main flower image, starting with just 3 Copic markers, in this case RV13, 14, and 17, to which I then added darker shades of that pretty pink using the Polychromos pencils, working from dark to light. For the sake of time, I'm only going to show you a portion of each element being colored. With Polychromos pencils, you don't have to worry about a waxy buildup, so you can go back and add as many layers as you deem necessary. I like to begin with the actual colors required for my image, in this case, the pinks and reds. Then go back in and add even more dramatic shading using a dark gray, brown, black, or even navy blue, depending on the undertones of my colored image. I simply add touches of this darkest shade of colored pencil, then smoothly blend it out using the colors. I'm showing this technique with Polychromos pencils, but you can absolutely use Prismacolor pencils if that's what you have. I'm trying to learn the art of simply using what I have. I'm just going to show you how I colored one petal because it's fairly repetitive and the technique is the same throughout. My goal with all coloring is to achieve varying levels of contrast. To my mind, the more contrast I can create, the more depth the image will have. For leaves, I like to determine where the shine will be. I will fully admit that I struggle with leaves for some reason. I'm not sure why because their shape is not that different from the actual flower, but I struggle with finding that shiny sweet spot. Once I finally determine where the shiny spot is, I try to leave it white for as long as possible. By doing this, I add as few layers of color saturation as I can, allowing it to be the lightest spot on the leaf. This lightest spot indicates the top of the curved part of the leaf, and the color gradually getting darker as it fades toward the edge of the leaf indicates the curve of the leaf. I use the same technique, laying down my base layer of color with 3 Copic markers, then going back in with my green pencils to add more depth, even going back again to add touches of navy blue and blending them out with the green pencils. One of my favorite results from this technique is that by using the Copics as a base layer, you cut down on the amount of time you have to spend shading. With colored pencils, you have to spend quite a bit of time adding layer upon layer of pencil to get a smooth, saturated blend. The base layer of bright Copic coloring is laid down fairly quickly, allowing the pencils to do quick work of adding shadows and dimension. After I had finished coloring the hibiscus bouquet, I fussy cut it out and began work on the card base. I stamped the fabulous geometric background from Tropic Fever using Little Piggy ink on some more white cardstock. I also stamped the greeting from Fierce and Fabulous using black ink. I die cut the coordinating Fabulous die from some navy blue cardstock, reserving the centers of the A, B, and O using some washi tape. I adhered all of the pieces to a white panel and trimmed the stamped greeting so that I could adhere the top and bottom portions separately. I adhered the greeting panels with foam adhesive to give this card lots of dimension. Because the hibiscus bouquet was hanging over the side, I trimmed the overhang, then used the extras to fill in the bouquet. After all of that work coloring the image, I wasn't about to let those extra pieces go to waste. The final step was to add some Midnight Blue Nouveau drops randomly on the card front to fill out the bouquet and add some new texture. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm really loving learning new ways to stretch my supplies, and I hope you found some of the tips in the video useful. If you liked this project, be sure to check out my YouTube channel or my blog at emilymidgett.com. Thanks so much to Dawn for having me back as a guest, and thanks so much for watching.